Good morning,
Hello.
everybody, and thank you for coming, for joining in this webinar. Today we're going to be talking with Raul and Abbas, the project leaders for the OWASP PHP Security Project. So without further ado, I know they have a lot to talk about, and they're really excited about their project. So I will turn it over to Raul and Abbas.
Hello and good morning, people. My name is Rahul Chaudhary, and my colleague here is Abbas Nadiri. He's the current chapter leader of Iran and currently a PhD candidate. I myself am a master's student and about to graduate in like 10 days. So anyway, this talk today is about PHP security, and here we have made an application which started in Google Summer of Code 2013, and our job was to, we actually focused on OWASP top 10, and our goal was to do something about each of the risks that is cited in top 10. And as an end product, we have made a project called PHP Security, which is called PHP Sec, and today is that demonstration. So let's get started, and Abbas, please join in wherever I am wrong. And if you guys have any questions, just feel free to ask anytime. I'll be stopping and pausing in between the slides to ask you, but if you just have any questions, just go ahead and start asking. So let's start. So as you can see, our website is phpsec.owasp.org. You can visit that anytime, and you should actually, because it will give you a hands-on view of what the project is. And okay, so moving on. So as you can see, our logo is a good one with an elephant, and it's PHP Sec. And this project was started in Google Summer of Code. I've already told you. If you want more information on any of these speakers, you can click on the links, and you will be taken to their home pages. And so the first question is, why should we start a new project? There are many open source projects which are out there doing the same kind of amount, same kind of thing, but why just a new project? Why PHP Sec is better than others? So there are obviously a few reasons. First, I want to tell you that there are projects out there, and they are open source. Something like OWASP ISAPI, which is very famous, and you might be hearing about ISAPI a lot. There is PHP IDS, but the thing about them is that over the time, they have become complicated and a huge combination of framework which is very difficult to, which is actually very big, first of all, and very difficult to incorporate in your system and use it. We needed something which is much more smaller, compact, and easy to use. Something like in a snap, you can just use it. So what we did was, instead of making all of, like, ISAPI is a complete bundle of everything, all security, things you merge together and a bundle, a box that comes with everything. But PHP Sec is little libraries that you can just use any of them. These are decoupled without any dependencies on each of them. So for example, you are facing some problems with your session and you don't want sessions to be exposed to some third party or some attackers. So you just download our session library. With ISAPI, it was not the case. With ISAPI, you have to download the whole bundle, and you either have ISAPI or you don't. This is not the thing with PHP Sec. This is one of the major good things about our project. PHP Sec is extremely flexible. The components do not rely on each other. They are just standalone. So if you want to use 2-3 components, just go ahead, do it. You don't have to do any other changes. Just use it just like that. It's a plug-and-play library. As simple as that. We have also made a sample framework for the community, because if you just want to use it like ISAPI, the whole complete bundle, you can do that also. So that depends on you guys and what your organization needs are. And so who is our target audience, I think you know better than me because you are the audience. I guess any PHP developer who is new to this PHP and wants to start a new application, a secure application, they should use it because it's robust. It would just take a lot of matters from your hand and it will just implement a secure thing everywhere. If you just have existing project but you are worried about security, you don't have to do much changes in your code. You can just include our libraries in there and it will work just as fine. If you are a project developer, anyone who wants to know more about security, any developer who wants to join in, anyone. I mean, if you are in security, in short, just come and join our project. It's new, it's exciting, it's backed by OWASP. I mean, it has anything that any security person should want, at least for me. Okay, PHP Sec is not SAPI, so I think I have already made that clear because SAPI is a complete bundle, PHP Sec is decoupled libraries. I do want to make a disclaimer that this project, like, it's in initial phases, and I would say that you have to use at your own risk, at least at first, because it's the library. Like, we have very few people. We are trying our best to handle every test cases, but humans do mistakes, and if something gets lost from your organization, something sensitive, then we are not liable, at least in the beginning. After that, who knows? Similar libraries is something that we have searched online of who is doing what, and we came across these 3 libraries that are almost same as ours. First is the J framework, which is exactly similar with our library, but it is made by OWASP Nadivi, and J framework was built on top of PHP Sec. So when PHP Sec was being made, OWASP Nadivi, as my colleague as who already is in the speakers list, he also started making a J framework, which is more of a framework and not decoupled libraries. So he started, it's kind of a testing environment for PHP Sec. It's built on top of PHP Sec. There's other library called, unfortunately, called PHP Sec. It is an open source licensed under MIT. Some guys, I guess, made it, and its name is same as ours, but the overall project is not same as ours. Some of the libraries match, something like session libraries match and user library match, but a lot of things are different in our own project. There's a third library which you can go in the link and check out. PHP Sec, I've told you a lot about it. It's a collection of libraries, and it mitigates top 10 risk of OS. So let's get into gory details. This is the overview of how the PHP Sec works. You can see that it works on the MVC controller. MVC design is one of the famous designs in web applications. So PHP Sec is built on top of that MVC view. So what happens is that you have a controller, your model, you have a view controller, deals with the outside the user request, and it passes the request to model and view. So this thing is the view of the overall framework, how that framework works inside PHP. Inside the framework itself depends on the lot of libraries, which are the decoupled libraries, as I told you earlier. So here is the list of all the libraries that you can see. So there are logs library, crypto library. Each of the library does something about OWASP top 10, and I will talk about each of the library in just a few minutes. I would like to just point out some of the basic things that PHP Sec is used to mitigate. Some things, brute force attacks won't be in your system if in your application if you implement this. There is something called, you would have seen a bank application needs a temporary password, two-way authentication system. These things are implemented. You won't have XSS attacks. You won't have any injection attacks, including SQL injections. You have, I guess, a lot of encryption is used to encrypt your sensitive data. you have safe passage to the database, you have you know, some capabilities to mark such things that you are not sure that are correct and should be in the system. A lot of things are there. I mean, I think you can read it in your own time. When I will get into the details of everything, you will see how each of the things work and what I'm talking about if you're just confused right now. There are certain things that are mitigated. There are many attacks. You can read all of them, and I will go through each of them one by one. So first thing is basic password library. This is one of these standalone libraries that we have created. Its job is very simple, but inside it's complicated. So what it does is that it secures your password. As you all know, passwords are very important. I mean, it's the only authentication system that is present here right now, and you need to keep them safe. So there are only one or two ways which you can keep your password safe from hackers. It's just that you have to you know, defend them from the brute force attacks. For that, you have to make them difficult to guess, and for that we have made several functions that helps you do that. First function is that we calculate the entropy of the password. What entropy means is that how much randomness is in the password. So we calculate if you give us a password, what is the randomness of your password, and we do not allow ordered characters, something like A, B, C, D in your password. So, you know, these are the signs of weak passwords. 4 numbers containing in your password is a weak password. So we have a collection of functions that checks for these common things that should not be in your password, and ultimately it calculates the strength of the password, and it gives the numbers between 0 and 1, in which we consider that below 0.3 is something we call a weak password, and 0.3 to 0.5 is a decent password, and after that it's a strong password. So you can choose your password based on these strengths. Also in this library, we do secure hashing of the passwords, and this way you have like the developer that is making a library or making a web application doesn't have to worry about how to secure or how to securely store the passwords in the table. It is already done automatically. With all these mitigation techniques in the basic password library, the thing is that the password guessing is still not eradicated, because anyone can still do a brute force method, but at least now you have some degree of protection. And since it's an open source project, if you have any other method of you know, making the passwords much more secure, just join in and contribute, because right now we are building the libraries and we are thinking of more functions, and in time this whole library will become large, a lot large than it is now. On top of basic password library, we have made advanced password library, which handles with protection of brute force attacks, and also handles the two-way authentication system. So this contains functions for, you know, mitigating brute force and implementing two-way authentication system. I would just ask you guys if you have any doubts till now. I guess not. Okay, so let's moving forward. The next library is user library. Every web application that does any meaningful task and needs personalization has to have a user library. When you implement this our PHP Sec, you already get a user library for free, and you have these functions of registering or deleting or adding users, you know, locking their account, checking the length of the passwords and how strong their password is, and how long they have not changed their password, which is called password aging, and some things like you see functions like remember me functionality when you log into some website. These functions are present there. You can use it, and just by seeing that, you can now realize that how easy it is becoming to build web applications now, because now if you want to just create a user, you have to write one line of code instead of all the 10 or 20 or 50 lines of code. So it is making your life easier, and you don't have to worry about security, because security was the first thing that we kept in mind in making these libraries. So now I think you are getting to the point where you understand how PHP Sec is going to change any developer's life. The next thing I would like to talk is the crypto library. So obviously you have a web application and you have a lot of sensitive data in it. By the way, this image, you should read it. It's really funny. So this is just a fun part that I included. It's really funny. So you have a lot of sensitive data in your application, right? You have version numbers, you have database password, database username. So all those sensitive information, what if someone hacks into your server and they can see your code, then they will know your database password, and they can do really nasty things. So what this crypto library does is that you mark the places where all your sensitive information is present, and this library, after its first run, it will encrypt all that sensitive information, so that even if your server gets hacked, these things are not actually guessable, because they are encrypted. And every time the application needs these data to be accessed, the library does automatically decrypting, uses the data, throws the data, and then re-encrypts them. So it's really secure, and yeah. So this is about the sensitive data, and you won't have to worry about if anything is out there in the open, because everything is encrypted now. And by the way, you can also encrypt all of your source code if you want. This is the way the sensitive library works. Crypto library works. So the thing is that below you will see a green line, a normal data. This was the first, this was before implementation. So that you see that in normal data, if you don't implement our own library, the data flow is just normal. There's nothing encrypted. Anyone can read the data, but not in the crypto library case. You have the sensitive data, it is passed through the crypto library, it is encrypted, and it is not seen by any humans, not even the developer, because that is encrypted after its first run. So you don't even have to worry about sharing your code. If you just want to share your code, don't worry, your sensitive information won't go anywhere because it's encrypted. And the application decrypts it within itself. It doesn't show the decryption part to anyone. Here is one example of how this library is used. You can see that the original file contains a username and a password, and as I said, you have to mark your things that is sensitive. So the marking function is called confidential string. Once you encapsulate this string into the confidential string, after the first run, you can see in the third line, third paragraph, that the sensitive information root is changed into something encrypted, and the password is also changed into something encrypted, which cannot be seen by anyone. Okay. Moving on to another library, database library. You already know databases are important. You need to store your information, retrieve it, but there is a problem. And by the way, this is another graffiti that you should read. It's really good. So with database library, you need libraries, and you need to make them secure, because half of the time in OWASP top 10, I guess since last 3 years or something, SQL injection is the most targeted thing in any web application. So I guess you realize how important it is to just keep your database secure and make secure connections to your database. Currently, our PHP Sec supports these three databases. We are working hard to include more databases, but right now, I guess for demonstration purposes, these three would work. What we have done is that we have made a wrapper class around all the databases. So for example, let's take MySQL, and so for MySQL we made a wrapper class that is used to connect to the database. The good thing about MySQL, our database library is that you don't have the option to use 3 or 4 functions. I mean, that's a headache. Instead, we have removed all the query details, everything, and we have made the wrapper function in such a way that you have only one function. This function that you can see in the bottom called SQL. You can use this function in various ways because it's overridden. You can by using this function in various ways, you can do all the database tasks, and you don't have to worry about many other functions because there is only one function to connect to the database. Behind the hood, this function is working in collaboration with the appropriate adapter, and that adapter is doing all the groundwork for you. So with using this, as you can see, this is using parameterized query, and I guess you all are familiar with parameterized query. If not, it's one of the useful concepts that you should learn. It's really handy and easy. So with SQL, this function uses parameterized query, and thus you are safe with the SQL injection attacks. One of our libraries is called Download Manager Library because the need of this library is that sometimes when you are serving files to the audience, to any audience, you are serving some files, and some audience will have greater bandwidth and some will have less bandwidth. So the greater bandwidth usually hogs up all the network bandwidth, and the person with low bandwidth, low internet speed is not served the file. So there is a discrepancy that is happening between the high-end users and the low-end users. So this download manager library does a lot of things, and one of its things is to manage the bandwidth. You can also use it for authorization before serving the file. So when you're serving the file, you can check that whether this particular user should be served this file or not. So I guess a short form for this is access control, and I will talk about access control a little bit later. It works on the HTTP range. If you just want to know the query details, you can just go to the library and you can read the code. We have made this HTTP library. So you have URLs, and URLs is that you have to manage that URL. You have to take that URL and read that request, something that URL says login, then you know that you have to log in the users. This particular HTTP library works with the URL, so you can do whatever you want with the URL. In this library, you have functions something like which type of what is the IP of the once you are given the URL, it can extract the IP information, root information, and it can look into the HTTP methods, requests. Right? It can check which type of application it is. Is it graphic application? It is a call from command line. You can change the HTTP protocol to HTTPS, and there are actually many functions in this library which entirely deals with the URLs. So this is also a handy library. I guess to know more about this library and to get a good feel of what this library does, you would have to go through the codes, or you have to see the sample applications that we have built to demonstrate this library. As far as verbally speaking, this library is more of a I guess deals with the URLs mostly and the details of your type of application. You have something called tainted library. So thing is that we believe that when you are making some application, you need to keep track of some of the strings, because string is the only place where user can do input, and this is the place, or you can say point of attack for any web application. And so with this tainted library, you can actually mark all the places where you feel that the string is not not sanitized, or maybe it is contaminated string. So you can mark that string, and once you mark that string, wherever this string is used anywhere in the web application, it will just throw an error saying that you are trying to use a string that is not decontaminated. It means that if you use this string in your system, this string is not trustworthy and it may hack your system. So what example, something that you see $malicious is a variable, and this variable contains this following script, which you know that is not healthy for your system. So what you do is that you contaminate this particular variable. Now, every time this particular variable is used anywhere in your system, it will just give you an error that you have not, this variable is not good to use, and you should first sanitize that particular variable. With sanitization, I mean that you should detect that whether this string is trustworthy or not, and if it is not trustworthy, you should sanitize it. You should clean this string to be it trustworthy. Now, an obvious question is that how would you know which variables are good and which variables are bad? So the answer is that you don't, but as just a matter of principle, what you can do is you can mark every place where the user can do input. So any variable that the user gets, you mark that variable thinking that this variable is not trustworthy, and you should sanitize that. And in actually real world, you should always do that. You should always sanitize user input. We have made logs library because we all know that how much logs are important. You need to keep track of all your application and how the behavior of the application is working. And if anything happens, logs is the first place where you will look. So we have made logs library. There are very various functions in this library. It actually uses files or database or even emails to store your log information. It also uses syslog, which you must be familiar with. Syslog is used by Unix machines and Linux machines to store log information. So there are 4 modes in which you can store log information. If you want more modes to store your logs, we are definitely working on that. So the work of this log library is simple. Whatever is happening in the system, just record everything in one of these systems storing mediums. And this is just an example. I've stored the library. I've stored the error messages in the database. As you can see, this is the this is the format that it is stored currently in the database, but for your information, this format is entirely customizable. You don't need to have it in the particular order. If you want to add more columns to it, go ahead, you can add more columns. It is 100% customizable, which is one of the very good things in PHP Sec. And we have something called a session library, and but before starting this, I want to ask you, do you guys have any particular questions on this? Okay, so it's not going to take much time because this is one of the last libraries that we are going to talk about. So the session library is it handles every problem with the session. So session have different kinds of problems. What attackers usually do is they can hijack session, or they can do something called fix the session, or maybe that sometimes the developers don't do mistakes by not checking that the session is expired or not. So this whole library is built in such a manner that it implemented in one of the most secure ways, and we constantly keep it updated to the threats out there. So obviously you won't have session fixation attacks, and the proper validation of sessions are done every time the the server sees the session. And we have many other functions, something called a session rolling, which checks the privileges of the session and changes the session if it finds that. Let me be very clear on this because it's a little bit of a difficult concept to handle. So you have sessions. The thing with session is that they can be stolen. So that is called session hijacking. The way we deal with this is that currently there's not much to do in that field. We do encourage to use HTTPS so that your traffic is encrypted and your sessions are not stolen. With session fixation, we do proper checking to remove session fixation attacks. You can first read about session fixation, and then you will easily understand by seeing our course that how we deal with the session fixation attacks. Then we have something called session rolling. And the reason this is important is because sessions are, suppose you logged into a particular website, but you are a general user. You actually have not logged in per se. Suppose you are visiting the eBay website and you are just going through all the products, but you are not logged in. In that case, you are a general user, but as soon as you log in, you are now a privileged user because you are now a customer. You have now provided your credentials. So you're obviously the ability of this particular user has changed. It is no longer a general user, and for this reason, he is now a privileged user, we say. So the session needs to be changed so that it now reflects that it is a privileged user and not a general user. For this, session rolling is implemented. So the developers don't need to worry about session rolling because this is done automatically in the library. I guess that we have said that our libraries are standalone libraries, but there is one particular library that is shared between all of the libraries, which is called the core library. Core library contains some core functions that are used by all of the libraries. These are very, very small functions. So there is something called a time library, which provides a central time to the overall web application, because we know that it's very difficult to change system time according to application, because changing system time actually doesn't work very good with other systems, because you might be running Kerberos on your system or any other application that depends on the time, and if you change time even for testing purposes and for this particular web application, you are going to mess up everything. So we have made a wrapper around the original time function, and our wrapper deals with the provides you the current time, and if you want to change time, if you want to move to future or move to backward, this wrapper function can do that. We have made a random library which deals with generating secure random numbers. Within the hood, we do use major random number providers, something called OpenSSL and Encrypt. We also infuse that OpenSSL and these libraries with process IDs within your system and other methods to make it more secure. We have something called an error library, because if you are not familiar, then you should know that In PHP, there are two kinds of things. It's either an exception, or it's an error. So there are two things that can happen in your system. Either an exception can be generated if something happens wrong, or an error can be generated. Now, most people are not familiar with errors because we are used to dealing with exceptions. And errors are not thrown automatically. They need to be thrown in the PHP. So this particular error library deals with the I guess I'm sorry. It deals with converting the error to the exception so that it can be thrown automatically. We have a library called functions library. You might be remembering that in the painted library, I talked about sanitization, that you should always sanitize your data. So using the functions in this functions library, you get some functions that if you use, you will not have XSS attacks. So it actually sanitizes your data so that you don't have to worry about XSS attacks, and you won't have any scripts in your user input. And finally, there's this loader library, which is used internally by the framework. This is not a part of the code libraries, but it's kept here. This whole slide I have explained to you in short because I guess we are short on time. Lastly, there is something called a scanner tool. We do provide a static scanner which scans through all of your code and sees places, identifies places where bad things can happen. It is something like, okay, so it's better if I just show you. It has two display styles. It can either show in GCC style or it can show in normal style. So you see that I have scanned my own library, and it says that within this particular function, in this line number, it has detected that I am using echo, and by using echo, I am actually vulnerable to XSS attacks. It is written here that using this statement, it can cause injection attacks. And it also says that what kind of this thing it is. So it says that it's a warning. It was one of the errors that I just showed you. There are many more errors that you can detect with this. We are constantly building this library. If you just want to know how this library works and how it scans the code and for what things it scans, it is all in our documentation and in our, codes. You can read the codes. And I would like to talk about the future works. Immediately, we are going to incorporate PHP RBAC, which is one of the projects made by OWASP. It is role-based access control. So I told about access control in Downloads Manager library that you need to check who is authorized to access what links. So RBAC is just that. It checks the access control. We are going to implement a cache control library. If you want to know what this library will do, you can read our documentation because I guess we are low on time. There are many other libraries that, including the secure SOAP and REST library that we had planned to do, but we are short on manpower. So I guess I would invite you all to just come and join the library. If not, just read the library and use the library and inform us of anything that is not good here. If you want it changed, so that's what the fifth point is, that it depends on you what the future work is, because I guess you are the future of this particular library. These are some of the links that you can use to know more about this particular library. It has main links, website links, OWASP links, and every other links. It also has QR codes if you want to scan it. And lastly, this is the last slide that So if you want to rate this particular presentation, you can definitely go to this particular link and rate it. I would very much like your feedback, and thank you very much for listening. And if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. So feel free to just ask anything. I guess I would hand over to Abbas to make any final comments and correct if I have told anything wrong. So Abbas, would you like to join in?
Sure. Thank you, Rahul, for your great presentation, and we really enjoyed it. Okay, people, I'm here to answer any questions you might be having.
This is Kate. There was one question.
Rahul, can you please?
There was one question. Is PHP Sec different from lowercase PHP Sec?
Okay, so I guess you are talking. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Can you please mute? There's a lot of noise coming from your side.
I'm sorry. Do you want me to answer it?
Can you mute? Yeah, can you mute the microphone, because there's a lot of noise coming from your side?
I guess there's a connection problem because I cannot hear you properly. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll try to answer. Okay, can you please repeat the question again?
Yeah, I just put the question in the chat window. Is capital PHP Sec different from lowercase PHP?
Oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, I got the question. So the thing is that in the very first slide I showed you some of the libraries which are similar to our libraries, and you're talking about the lower PHP Sec, which is licensed as the MIT license, and I guess some of the libraries are similar to ours. I guess as far as I know, session library was similar to ours, but our library has much more functions different from that libraries, and I guess that particular library, I don't see much of the traffic in that library, and so I guess that whoever made that library is not doing any more work on that. There's, from a different perspective, if you want to know about the difference, it's just that I guess it supports only the session libraries and one or two other libraries. Our is a superset of that. We also contain session logs and very other libraries that helps you. Any other question?
Yeah, there was another question, and I put that also in the chat window. Is the entropy in class random part of the library core better than the entropy of PHP standard function?
Okay, so within the PHP random function, entropy is not there. Entropy is in the basic password management library, and entropy tells you the amount of randomness that you have in your system. And this particular function, I think the formula of calculating entropy is same for everyone, so it's not a huge difference. It's just that it helps us calculating the randomness in your particular password. Hello?
Yeah. Okay. That was the only that was the only other question that we had.
Great.
Oh no, somebody just asked, where will the slides for this webinar be posted? We're going to be replaying this webinar again later tonight, and so these will be posted tomorrow, and I'll be sure to send out a link to this. But Raul, if you have these slides available, do you think you could just go ahead and post them on the PHP project wiki page?
In the second last slide in the link section, the very last link is the project presentation. You can go and have this presentation there.
Okay.
You can also access that on the project website, phpsec.owasp.org.
Okay, perfect. So the slides then will be on this particular listed site as well as on the project page.
Exactly.
And of course, if you have any questions about the PHP project or what's going on with the project, or if you want to contribute to the project, feel free to reach out to either Raul or Abbas at any time, and you can find their information on these slides, or you can reach out to them through the project webpage on the wiki. Okay, so
And I just want to say that our links are present in the very first slide that I showed you about us. So my and Abbas link both are present, and our contact information both are present in the website as well as in the first page that I showed you.
okay, perfect. Okay, so if there are no other questions, that will do it for the rest of today. And again, we're going to be replaying this webinar later this evening, and then it will be posted to the project page as well as the wiki page. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you for the next webinar. Thank you.